started another trucking company called South Motor Freight, which he then sold. And then my father started U.S. Express and runs it or has passed it on to my brother. So I grew up in the industry. I didn't want to work for my brother. Not that I don't like my brother and love my brother. I just didn't want to work in the family business because I wanted to kind of do my own thing. And I've always been interested in really a couple of things other than trucking. I've been interested in Wall Street and what happens with stocks. And my father, one of the things he taught me early on was just about investments and so forth. And U.S. Press went public, so I got to learn that process. And so I've always read markets news from the Wall Street Journal, Economist, etc., but also love technology. So big fan of Wired and TechCrunch and those publications. So I followed all of those. And when we set out to create a futures market, which is what we've been working on at TransRisk, we realized that there was no real good media that was written from a financial news perspective, that really a lot of the trucking media is written in a way that drives advertisers either for driver jobs and roles or to sell trucks and equipment and stuff. And there was nobody that was really breaking news. There was not afraid to say things that may be offensive or tell a story that may upset people. There was no real markets level journalism. And it's not to suggest that the publications out there don't do a quality job. It's just that no one was coming at it from what you would see in other types of financial markets. And so when we looked at FreightWaves, we built FreightWaves to really be, it's been described if the Wall Street Journal and TechCrunch had a baby in the back of a semi, that's what you would get with FreightWaves. It's really a combination of technology, technology and venture capital innovation combined with capital markets or combined with Wall Street, and talking about how the markets are moving and how thinking of freight as a commodity, how it's being impacted by things like regulations, like ELDs, things like technology and weather and all those things that impact day-to-day markets and the trucking business. And so that's really what FreightWaves is all about. And that's really, our story.
Awesome. Now, you brought up a couple of company names there. I kind of led off into FreightWaves. I think I mentioned blockchain, and then you mentioned, is it TransRisk?
Yeah, I don't want to go too deep into it, but I'm happy to talk about it really quick. When we first started the business, I had a payments business that we sold to U.S. Bank as a fleet card business that we incubated called TransFunds that we sold to U.S. Bank in 2012. And I stayed there for a couple of years, and I didn't want to work. I'm not a good employee. I would fire myself, so I'm a much better entrepreneur. And so in 2014, I left, and I was doing some day trading, stock market day trading, and became enamored with the idea of a futures market on trucking, which a futures market basically is a way to trade spot prices in trucking rates. And so we set out to build that, but what we realized is, and that's what TransRisk is a futures market based on trucking. What we realized is in order to build any kind of tradable contract, like to trade oil, coal, corn, frozen concentrated orange juice, Bitcoin, whatever it is, you have to have news services that provide information so that people can trade it. And you have to understand what are the things that drive changes in the market. And so that's why we built FreightWaves to really to do that. And that's how we got here. And so we hired traditional journalists. Typically, they have a master's or PhD in journalism or English, and some of them come from the markets, financial markets, Wall Street, and they're writing about things that you would expect to see in the Wall Street Journal. And it's not meant to be, really pro anything. It's meant to just tell the story. I mean, we take positions that sometimes are unpopular. They may be positions that the ATA disagrees with, or they may be positions that the small owner operators really love and are empowered by. It may be things that they're unpopular with different groups, but we're not afraid to come out and tell a story. And because we don't take on a lot of advertising dollars, we're not worried about upsetting somebody in the process.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you, you kind of came on the scene, relatively recently, and you're making a big impact already. You are the talk of the town, so to speak. I mentioned already, FreightWaves is already probably the number one, from what I've seen, the number one source of information for most of us out here, and it seems to be the most reliable source as well. There's a lot of paid advertisement and different groups that put different blogs out that really have an agenda behind them, but it seems that what you've done with FreightWaves is really it's gone a different direction, and it's refreshing to see something new come out. And so I applaud you for that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, we do, occasionally make mistakes, and we're not perfect. And I think we have a desire to get information out as fast as possible. So sometimes you move quickly when you do that, and that's going to create mistakes. But I think that's an important point. Is anytime we do, we have two advertisers on the site. One is a Triumph Business Capital, and the other is Reliance Insurance today. We disclose when those are sponsored content, so people are aware that those are written. They're written by our editorial staff, so they're not directed by those companies themselves. But and they're meant to talk about what the product is that they're offering and what they're talking about. So that clearly, but everything else that we write is not influenced by really any of it. In fact, you can even read where one of our writers will take one position and another writer will take the exact opposite. And one of the most polarizing topics that we've talked about is the Tesla electric semi, and whether or not, is Tesla going to be successful, which one of our writers believes absolutely Tesla, Elon Musk is God and can do anything and walk on water. And the other one thinks that that Tesla's not going to survive in a year. And so those counter arguments are very important because you're getting both perspectives. And I think you have to understand that, writers themselves have opinions, even if you're reading the most neutral publications, they have opinions. And we don't want to stifle that. We want to encourage that. So sometimes, we'll read the comments on Facebook when we write something that's unpopular, and we know that it's going to stir people up. But, in a given day, we can be accused of being diehard liberals and diehard conservatives and Nazis and all sorts of things, because the positions that you have are very disparate in terms of the view. So,
and I think the Tesla, over the past few weeks, I've really been focusing this show on the future of the transportation industry as a whole, not just for carriers and drivers, but for what does the future hold for brokers, and how will shippers transact business in the future. You mentioned Tesla, and the other big news is also the autonomous technology. But when it comes to Tesla, today I'm in Orlando, Florida, and we can see Cape Canaveral every time they launch something. Elon Musk today launched his Falcon 9 Heavy rocket, the big rocket with the external boosters, and this is going to be the vehicle that will take humans back into space. So ever since the shuttle program has been out of service, we've been relying on the Russians to take American astronauts into space. Elon Musk is going to do